So we have a lot of topics to cover regarding exaggeration, freaking out, elevated emotional states, and depressed emotional states. Somebody's referring to me as the most frightening person they've ever met. This person's met Wayne, and by Wayne I mean Ouane, that Wayne. Yeah. And I think that would be a pretty freaky experience. You know, he's not what you think, but he kind of is, because you don't have the capacity to think about it. We talk about karmic debt. Debt doesn't go away. It doesn't go away because you came home. It doesn't go away because, you know, I sometimes talk about the Sinaloa cartel, Sinaloa, without aloha. That you say, okay, aloha away, you know, and then running around your neighborhood. So, you know, it kind of has to do with the time that what they get Carl off probation for a couple days, talk to his probation officer so that he could go down there and pick up Bo and his motorcycle and get them across the border. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's calling all the way from Baja. So these things that you do, they are karma. And if you're freaking out at descriptions of what has happened to people in this world, especially when they're catering to Western market and dealing with people that they don't see as real people, then if just words freak you out, you know, there are all sorts of things that happen and you just think you're going to keep winning forever, and you're not. No one does. Even the very highly empowered people have to go through their punishment phases from time to time. And that is why we practice the practices that help us make that meaningful. You're going to forget hell the minute you walk out of it, right? So this revolving door of hell, why did Amitabha break into 1,000 pieces? You don't even know what I'm talking about. But you want to be the boss of me, because I'm the scariest person you've ever met. And you know why you weren't afraid of Wayne? Because you were high. You know why you're afraid of me? Because you exaggerate. So, why is it appropriate to put cameras in my bedroom and beat me up all the time? You know what he's charging you for my time? You ain't paying. Not in cash, not in currency, not in labor, not in Bitcoin or whatever. But you're going to. Because there are things that are classed as commodities, including the time of women, the time of people with any skill. And you can say, well, I just don't think she has a skill. Then go away. And you didn't go away, right? You don't think I have a skill? Oh no, she's dangerous. Okay, you could say, okay, we have a way. I've talked to people about this. The gypsies have a way. The Japanese have a way. Hi, we're the police. We think there's a crime going on in here. We're going to just sit here and watch your show just to make sure it's not a criminal act. And then they're going to deputize everybody on the street. Oh yeah, we're cops too. We're cops too. And you can't just say, okay guys, show's over, guys, we're leaving. You can't do that because you got bills to pay too. So how are you going to get that done? Because you got people breathing down your neck. All your performers have contracts. The roof over your head, the guy who owns it has a contract. And it's all based on things that are counted as things. Not everything that you can touch, not everything that you can think that you can monetize is a thing in this context. The only drug that's a thing in this context is opium. Because it was classed as a medicine at one time. It had its it was necessary. Nobody ever went through this process with cocaine. Nobody ever went through this process with any of the brain hormone and neurotoxin drugs. That whole class of psychedelics. Nobody went through this process with soma. Okay? But they went through the process with opium. Your opium debt has to be paid. Otherwise, you know, they could take your house, they could do all kinds of things in a very different way than somebody, you know, beating their chest at you because Wayne showed up in person and dumped your Molly on the ground. Because that's what happened. And then you tried to pin the debt on somebody else. So the idea that you can't hold somebody accountable for missing revenue, for missing goods, and then you can hold somebody accountable for missing revenue and missing goods. There are limits on this. There are people you can hold accountable. There are people under the power of other people said, yeah, I did this, he's going to pay for it. They grab him, put him in irons, and drag him off to God knows where. Okay? And there's people you can't do that with. Americans used to be a class of people like that, right? Americans could go out there and do anything to anybody, and the consequences that they would face would not be the same consequences that anybody who lived there would face. This is a burning issue. Now, one of the things you got to understand is he's not as much about the money as you think he is. But the money is a prop, the money has meaning, and the money is a tradable substance. A lot of the stuff you've tried to offer in return for what you've done, what you have done, is not a tradable substance. How many times have you tried to offer me as payment for X debt, Y debt, Z debt, Q debt, Q's debt, and U's debt? Do you understand that you added to your tab every time I needed an exfil? So you think that nothing is going to happen to you. Thinking about all of the... I want you to think really hard about all of the things that you've already survived. The United States has a policy for people who exceed a certain lifespan, if they have a certain injury or something like that, and yet it doesn't kill them. It tends to be the revocation of your U.S. citizenship. And in most cases, you have done things in your life that they didn't want to see the light of day. They want to have you brought before a jury of 12 of your peers. But they know that they happened. And when you get to the end of your natural life, and you're still going like the Energizer Bunny, that's when they said, you know, he's no longer a U.S. citizen. So what is it you're looking for here? What is it you're looking for here? Maybe I am more frightening than the emanations of my husband. And there are some of these emanations that don't have any room for anything that's not transactional. And there are others that have other aspects that available to them. And some of these are roles that they play within little vignettes, in which it's just a crucible of some circumstances in the hand of something much larger. A small dose for a small child, a big dose for somebody more mature. But if you're out there tracking, you know, mixing all the vials together, mixing all the vases, breaking the vases, all of that sort of stuff, he's got a place for those too. So if you aren't going to look at the garbage that comes out of your mouth and the people standing in front of you when you're spewing this stuff, somebody somewhere, their daughter lost their tongue. And one of these dumb things that they said, I come before my king and I realized that I was doing business with an American that I shouldn't have been doing, and me and my family are accountable for this because we want to continue here. And their daughter lost their tongue.